I'm the full brush man. I'm giving a free sample.
What the fuck? I don't know about you, but it seems like I can't go very far these days without hearing something about woke Disney or about how Disney's bowing to the woke mob. And with all of this, it seems like the general feeling on display is that Disney, going from cringe to culturally sensitive, is a more recent thing? Breaking news! Definitely not the case. Sure, there's the classic examples that we've all heard of, the crows from Dumbo, the Siamese cats from the Aristocats, the Native Americans in Peter Pan. These get a lot of play, so I'm not going to rehash them here, but really, Disney using racial stereotypes goes back long before any of these anyway. But this kind of humor was all over the place and widely considered acceptable at the time. True. Mostly. While things like blackface were denounced by some very prominent voices at the time, for the most part, the mainstream, mostly white audiences didn't seem to mind, so we have plenty other classic examples of racist movies and cartoons. Now, over the last 5 years or so, it definitely does seem like Disney, the company, is reflecting on a whole lot of its content and making changes around cultural sensitivity. Pirates of the Caribbean and their auction scene, the outdated depictions on the Jungle Cruise, the warnings that have been included in front of some of these movies on Disney Plus. And with all of these changes recently, it's easy to feel like some new kind of corporate wokeism has invaded the House of Mouse. Walt Disney's gotta be rolling in his grave. First off, kind of hard for a cryogenically frozen body to roll. Second of all, these kinds of changes aren't actually all that new for the Walt Disney Company. Plenty of them were actually done with Walt's seal of approval. One of the earliest examples of this is from the 1933 animated short film, Three Little Pigs. This sucker is a textbook definition of a Disney classic. It won an Academy Award. It's been voted one of the greatest cartoons of all time, and it's preserved in the National Film Registry at the Library of Congress. Chances are, you've probably seen it at some point. It's pretty much everywhere on pretty much every home video format. But what hasn't widely been seen is that original version that Walt Disney first released. For the most part, it's that same classic tale of three little pigs trying to seek shelter from the big bad wolf. Though once we hit the point where the wolf is trying to trick the pigs into letting them into the final house of bricks, we get a glimpse of some old-fashioned, unfiltered Disney cringe.
Who's there? I'm the full brush man. I'm giving a free sample. Thank you. Now I got
Now again, there's no way that you'd ever see this kind of blatant racist stereotyping today, at least not by a major media company. But even for the mid-1930s, this specific Jewish peddler stereotype is, let's just say, uncomfortably similar to the type of anti-Semitic propaganda that was coming out of Nazi Germany at the time. Flash forward to 1948, where Walt Disney had spent much of the last 7 years hammering out propaganda films for the US military. The company felt that the time was right to re-release Three Little Pigs back into theaters, but with one significant change. Now again, this was all after World War II, after the horrors of the Holocaust had been broadcast around the world, and also after the Motion Picture Association of America had recommended to Walt Disney that he do a better job of respecting Jewish sensibilities. Thus,
I'm the full brush man. I'm giving a free sample.
still feels a little off. But it wasn't until decades later that Disney made one final change that made this into the version of the Three Little Pigs that most of us are familiar with.
I'm the full of brush man. I'm working my way through college.
Who's there? I'm the full brush man. I'm giving a free sample. I'm the full brush man. I'm giving a free sample.
I'm the full of brush man. I'm working my way through college.
Another early example is from the classic Walt Disney labor of love Fantasia. You know, the one with all the music that your parents seem to love, but really, you only cared about the Sorcerer Apprentice's scene. That one. When this groundbreaker came out in 1940, audiences and critics were blown away by the never-before-seen mix of symphony-quality classical music and world-class short-form animation. Advertisements invited people to see and marvel at the scenes that amazed thousands. Scenes like the flower-coloring fairies and Hoplo, the dopey of the mushrooms. Ugh. This is not the example that I'm going for because it's still in the movie. Anyway, if you had seen Fantasia before Disney's 1969 theatrical reissue, you would have experienced a slightly different version of the pastoral symphony that you're probably familiar with. Again, this type of racial stereotyping was not particularly out of place at the time. Mickey Mouse appeared in full-on pickaninny blackface for the 1933 short Mickey's Melodrama, so not a big deal for Disney in 1940. But by the time Disney was planning for that big theatrical reissue of Fantasia in 1969, the world had once again changed. Recent events like the end of Jim Crow, the civil rights movement, the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. were all still fresh in everyone's mind. So, easy to see why the Walt Disney Company felt like the time was right to make a few cuts. And by that I mean they cut those scenes altogether. And while this did solve the whole subservient racial stereotype issue, it did create another problem. The fact that these scenes were just cut all of a sudden created slight jumps in the soundtrack. Kind of important if that's a big part of the experience. This was remedied, kind of, in the 60th anniversary DVD release of Fantasia that included an original uncut version of the film, and while it wasn't technically cut, these scenes were heavily modified using digital zooms to crop out the unwanted material. It wasn't until 2010 for the Blu-ray version, which is also what you'll find on Disney Plus, that this scene went through extensive repainting and reanimation to fix these edits while still maintaining the original soundtrack. Finally, a more recent example of self-censored Disney cringe is from the 1992 animated version of Aladdin. I gotta be honest, I love this movie. That opening title sequence with Arabian Nights just setting everything off. Oh, so good. A little less memorable, if not completely forgotten, is the original version that you only would have heard if you had seen the film during its initial theatrical release. Still pretty much the same song that's included now, except for 2 lines.
Oh, I come from a land, from a faraway place, where the caravan camels roam. Where they cut off your ear if they don't like your face. It's barbaric, but hey, it's home.
These 2 lines were included among a much larger list of objections that the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, or ADC, had with Aladdin when it was originally released. Disney wasn't exactly interested in making too many changes to their newly minted cash cow, so they allegedly offered to ever so slightly modify the offending lyrics as some kind of olive branch. And now, whenever you fire up Aladdin on Disney Plus, instead of
where they cut off your ear if they don't like your face, it's barbaric, but hey, it's home.
You'll hear
where it's flat and immense and the heat is intense, it's barbaric, but hey, it's home.
So there you have it, 3 examples of Disney going from cringe to culturally sensitive. Wait. Have I been saying culturally sensitive this whole time? I meant to say cash sensitive. This whole idea of woke Disney. I mean, we are talking about the diversified, multinational mass media and entertainment conglomerate known as the Walt Disney Company. Whether it's Walt Disney with the 3 little pigs or current CEO Bob Chapek with content warnings on Disney Plus. For them, it definitely seems like it's less about the feelings and more about the financials. Still, it is totally disappointing that Disney has gone completely revisionist history when it comes to some of its racist content from the past. Rather than make it available to be viewed and discussed as cultural artifacts, they've instead taken the lazier approach and buried it deep within their own vault. As Disney legend Whoopi Goldberg put it,
I'm trying to find a way to get people to start having conversation about bringing Song of the South back so we can talk about what it was and where it came from and why it came out.
Man, oh man, I love that Whoopi Goldberg.
What you doing there?
Hey, come on, I'm trying to film. Oh, did you send the box?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, come on in, boys. Oh, Tar Baby. Forgot all about you. You gotta stay in the vault.
Wonderful feeling this way.